Hello, and welcome back to Ethics and Other Messy Things. I'm your host, Ashleigh Gardner-Cormier, and I'm really glad you're here today. So let's get started. This week, I want us to pause and to take a look at our tendency to talk about efficiency like it's automatically good. Like faster is better, streamlined is smarter, and reduced friction means progress. But efficiency is not a moral value. It's an operational one. And when systems start treating efficiency as if it's an ethical good, something very quiet and very dangerous begins to happen. So let's look at another case. Let's imagine a large behavioral health organization adopts a new AI-supported intake and triage system. And once they're ready for rollout, they have what is quite likely the most peaceful and positive staff meeting of all time, when they tell their employees that help has arrived in the form of AI. The goal of the new system is simple, reasonable even. Reduce wait times, standardize decision making, get clients routed faster, and relieve overworked staff. On paper, it's a complete win. And the system reviews intake forms, flags risk levels, recommends service pathways, and prioritizes cases, all in seconds. It's important to note here that no one in the organization is told to stop using their judgment. No one's told that the system replaces clinicians either. But something shifts anyway. At first, staff is a little leery of having a new system, so they're double checking throughout the process to make sure things are going well. Then over time, they start to trust it. And then as more time passes, they even start deferring to it. Not because they're lazy or don't care, but because the system is fast and it's confident and it's pretty consistent. And they're following the human in the loop rules and checking on the final product. So they're doing everything right? It's important to note, though, that there was one instance in the process of implementing this new system where a clinician hesitated on a recommendation because the nature of the situation kind of left her unclear about how to label the severity of the case. But before she could even fully gather her thoughts, the system spit out low risk outpatient referral. The clinician did stop to think for a moment, but then decided they'd let things go. After all, the bottle has more data than I do, so it's probably right. Plus, if I slow things down, I'm the bottleneck. So she moves on. You see, efficiency doesn't remove judgment. She was actually forming an opinion. But what it does do is it reshapes the conditions under which judgment feels allowed. And this is what can have the grave consequences. As a matter of fact, 3 months later, a client who we'll call Susie decompensates and has to be hospitalized. And her life and that of her children is completely upended. Later on in a root cause meeting, the organization discovered that Susie's downward spiral didn't occur all at once, the way it looked. Instead, it actually did happen over time. And earlier signals were there, but they never quite registered as signals to the system. Inconsistent housing showed up in the system as simple address changes, even though in reality those moves were tied to eviction and escalating family conflict. Caregiver burnout was also present, but AI flattened that as well. Susie was a single mother of 4 with no involvement from the fathers of her children. So her stress level was compounding between the housing issue and being a single mother. It was a lot, but unfortunately, nothing that happened without context, nothing that was going on actually crossed the system's risk threshold. And so each individual decision had her still labeled as low risk. So each step appeared efficient. But the problem was no one paused long enough to really ask the question, what might be missing here? Because after a while, stopping had begun to feel wrong, as we discussed earlier with the other clinician. Even in meetings, pausing felt wrong. So relying on the new system meant that staff meetings ran more efficiently. Clients weren't discussed at length anymore because it was quietly decided that system could handle that. And let's be honest, who actually wants to sit in on staffing longer than they have to? But on the other hand, how many times have those long, messy, rambly, almost town hallish discussions led to the realization that clients were actually teetering on the edge once everybody finished comparing notes? I know in my own experience, it happens a lot. But pausing had started to feel inefficient, and inefficiency had quietly become framed as failure. So this gradual, unintentional, and largely unnoticed movement away from what is right is what we call ethical drift. It's not a policy violation or misconduct. It's not even a rogue system. It's just a slow redefinition of what good practice looks like. And over time, this is what ethical drift looks like. Good becomes fast, care becomes throughput, and judgment starts to feel like friction, and responsibility gets distributed until it quietly disappears. No one really made a bad decision, but the system made it easier not to make a careful one. And when harm occurred, there was no clear place to locate responsibility because every step had followed the process. And that's the danger, because one efficiency becomes the default value. And judgment starts to feel optional. And when judgment is optional, ethics become procedural. And at that point, harm doesn't look like harm. It just looks like the system working like it was designed to work. And that's exactly why social work matters here. Social work has never been about speed. It's about context and uncertainty and sitting with incomplete information and still remaining accountable. Social workers don't just belong in these conversations. We're often the only ones trained to notice when speed is being mistaken for safety. Efficiency is not neutral, and it's never on its own ethical. So we have to keep these things in mind moving forward. I want to thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.